is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
You have to be strong in today's world. Keep your focus and up. You believe in how to achieve all your dreams. Keep moving forward. Never accept less than
With Nahaja Black is sponsored by the Ministry of Health, Cable Bahamas, Rev Christmas, ML Foods Limited, the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, Fidelity Bank Bahamas, and Baja Retreat and Spa.
It's a hit back with Nahaja Black. It's a hit back with Nahaja Black.
Good afternoon, Bahamas, and welcome to the Hit Back. I'm your host, Nahaja. It is a beautiful day here in the 242. I hope that you are doing well, taking care of yourself, and living life today. This is one of those great shows that I'm excited about. Yesterday's show was very much a power-packed, strong show. Belinda Wilson, we were talking about education yesterday, and that theme will continue today because, of course, it is a national priority. I believe that all of us should be very aware, very cognizant of what's going on with the state of education because it affects all of us. This COVID pandemic has really changed the landscape of education, where we were still not, in my estimate, we were not pioneers of anything in education. When I say pioneers, meaning that we haven't, vacillated that would take us or transcend the Bahamas from being reactionary to proactive, transcended that space yet. We are still in need of that sort of reinvigoration system. This pandemic, though, has continued to show us that we are weak in areas, and beyond that, we are failing in many areas to get our young people. Mind you, the entire world is struggling, but we seem to be struggling a little extra. And so I'm excited today because I have the Minister of Education and Vocational, Technical and Vocational Training join. And I don't want to waste too much time with an intro, so I want to welcome her as the newly minted Minister of Education, Madam Glenys Hannah Martin. How are you, Madam?
I not fully minted, but becoming minted with the circumstance. But I'm doing well. How are you doing, Nahaja? I like that background you have there.
Listen, I try to be like you,
Man, by yourself now. Don't worry about that.
Man, Minister, it's such a pleasure to have you on. First of all, congratulations. This is the first time that I have you on the show since the recent elections. I know we've been working on it, but the schedule has been a little tight for most ministers so far, but I appreciate the time and you agreeing to say yes to the show, in particular for the reason that we're here today, which is we're coming to the end of the term. And the ministry and the Department of Education has decided, based on, I guess, things that you guys are seeing, that a final exam is not happening now. And of course, it has caused and increased the concern. There is some furor. Teachers seem to understand to some degree, but there is frustration with some. And the parents are frustrated for their children who have probably been in the program. You said in your contribution in the House, you called this a crisis. And I want to get from you, Ms. Hannah Martin, first of all, on the response to there not being any national exams, and then your take on the state of education in the Bahamas. The floor is yours.
Well, I have not done a scientific survey as to assess what the global or the collective response is. I know we're in a mixed situation. We've had children in school in the virtual mode. Exams were not held last year either. And so I don't think it's necessarily a shock because in fact, we've been in full virtual as opposed to last time where it was hybrid. So these are less favorable circumstances for an exam. And so I would be surprised that people are so surprised. Mm-hmm. I think the notice came out late, and that might be a legitimate observation that it came out late. But I don't think realistically, and I could be wrong, I don't think realistically many believed that we were going into exams, particularly with the fluctuation of time and as we got closer to the end of the term. I think people sort of, I believe most did, appreciated that it would be the same as last year, even though these conditions have been a lot more difficult than it was last year. Students have been in full virtual. And then the mixed environment is the other thousands of children who have not been in virtual at all. They've been out of school. And I know certainly though they didn't expect to do examinations. This is a crisis. And it is a crisis that has been brought on by a pandemic that has killed about 700 plus people in this country. Per capita, that's a very high number. It's made a lot of people sick. It's put a strain on our healthcare sector. And so the successive governments have taken positions that they would put in place certain policies as related to face-to-face interaction in the schools. And that has been where we are. You have, right now, we're trying to understand the numbers of students that have been out of the loop. But it's more than significant. It's frightening. And that is why I have been asking first of all, for everyone to have an appreciation that we're not in a normal environment. This is so far from normal, it's pitiful. This is not normal. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of children who have not been in school, some not since the pandemic began almost 2 years ago. And they're from the varying ranges of education. So as a result of that, you are having tremendous learning loss, which may sound, sort of simple on the face of it, but fundamentally to development, human development, it is more than significant. And UNICEF, which is the United Nations Body for Education, Culture, and Science, etc., they have described this, that if we're not careful, if we don't do this right, we could have, not just we in the Bahamas, but we could be seeing a lost generation. And that is why, I think that we have to have an awareness and a sensitivity. I know there's probably a level of impatience and fear and anxiety, and that's very normal and natural, and I understand that fully. But we have to, first of all, begin with an appreciation of understanding that this is not a normal environment, that we are in a crisis, and that we are seeking now, we're a new administration, we're seeking now to bring about some level of regularization. And what part of that regularization is restoration of face-to-face. I personally consider it, the government considers it very important that we get children back in the classroom and that they're able to interact with each other and with teachers and begin to come back to a socialization that has been missing for all of us at some point. We were locked down and all of that, but it's very important for children in learning. And so this is where we are. And that is why in January, we want to see the schools open initially in a hybrid model. And it's happening that way because that is what the Ministry of Health is advising. And we're not going to advise ourselves on a health crisis or pandemic. I don't have the skill set. No one in this ministry has that skill set. We are guided by the Ministry of Health. And they have agreed that we can go on with certain protocols in place into a hybrid environment where we would mix it up with face-to-face and virtual. The other problem is the virtual has proven difficult for some, not difficult for others, and non-accessible apparently for others, for another grouping. That is why we undertook to understand it so we're not guessing or making it up as we think it is or as we go along. We asked the Department of Statistics to engage in a survey of these children who have not been online to find out what are the issues. I know we all think we know it's this, that, or the next thing, but when we get those results, which we expect in another few days, next week, we will understand what are the underlying inhibitors to our children and our young people accessing online learning so that we are able to target that issue, because it appears, at least in the short term, we're going to continue to some extent with virtual as a component of delivery of education for our children. That's how we're hearing it from the Ministry of Health. We're hoping, though, that at some point we're going to be beyond this. All of us want to be beyond this situation. But I think it's very important that when people have judgments or assessments, that they understand that we are dealing with a very sensitive, difficult situation that almost every country on the planet has faced. And the challenge now, which is the one that I have come to, is to see how we can get children back in the classroom and how we can allow for them to catch up, because we don't want any child to be lost. We don't need to get, we need to find ourselves, the community, the teachers, the principals, the ministry, everyone has to get on the same page. That is a necessity. It must happen because it ain't about us. It's not about us. What it is about right now is all of these young people who have been disadvantaged in such a serious way. And the question is, how can we as stakeholders come together to make it happen? So, Nahaja, on the question you raised about the exams, they were not held last year in more favorable circumstances. And so, I don't think many had an expectation that in less favorable circumstances that we'd have exams. But my understanding is, and I think there's been discussion with the teachers and with the principals, that what will happen next term, in early next term, that there will be assessments so that those children who have been online, who have been doing the work, who have made the sacrifice where they've had to make them, that they will not be compromised. We're having to walk, chew gum, do cartwheels, everything in the book to try and stabilize this situation. But we need the cooperation of the community. We need the cooperation of parents, teachers, ourselves in the ministry, the government. Everybody has to come together for a singular purpose. Because Nahaja, it ain't about us. That's the bottom line.
If you're just tuning in, the Minister of Education, Glenys Hannah Martin, joining us on the show. Minister, and I know it's time to take a quick break, but there's so many questions. So let's take the quick break, because I have quite a bit of questions for you based on all of those bits of information or thoughts that you shared with us. So we'll take a quick break. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja, Black Guardian Radio. We'll be back right after this.
It's a simple act of kindness with you, me, and RBC.
RBC wants to spread acts of kindness during this festive season. One simple act of kindness for our friends, co-workers, and communities can cause the brightest smile. Help a stranger, give a food basket, or call an elderly person. Share your stories at facebook.com/RBC Caribbean.
Acts of kindness, RBC.
Girl, you see how Cora eye look funny, all black up yesterday?
But she say she bumped into a wall when she's running after the churn them.
Yeah, but last Saturday, you see her arm was all black and blue, right?
So what you saying? You think something wrong between her and Jack?
I ain't sure, but you know Jack is a jealous man. I hear him and Cora last Friday. I hear him say he hear Cora have eyes for Junior.
Now you know that ain't true. Cora is a good woman, does mind her business, take care of them churn, and go to church every Sunday. So what you think we should do?
I think we should report Jack, you know. Cora don't say nothing, but silence hides violence, and we don't want to line up in the cemetery.
Not me. I ain't getting in nobody business, then Jack come after me, and I land up next to Cora.
No, man, we could call a text Crime Stopper. And remember, we can even get some grocery money for our tip.
Remind me again, how does this work?
We can call them in Miami at 328-TIPS or 328-8477. Or when we in the island, call toll-free at 300-TIPS or 300-8477. And if you don't have no minutes, use the Crack Crime Bahamas app, and we could text them, and the messages get all mixed up before it leave your phone, so nobody can know what you saying.
So what we waiting on then? Let's go earn some grocery money.
Food security is a challenge for many. Now in a pandemic, many more are unsure of their next meal. Through their Feed 5,000 program and a $20,000 donation, AML is working to ensure that everyone has a meal for the holidays, and they're inviting you to help. Now until December 17th, visit any Solomon's, Cost Right, Fresh Market, or Domino's in Nassau or Freeport, and Exuma Markets in Georgia Georgetown to donate and help feed a family in need this Christmas. No amount is too small. Remember, we're all in this together.
When I got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. That's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Joining us is the Minister of Education and Vocational Training, the one and only Glennis Hannah Martin, joining us on the show. Minister, thank you again. You gave us a great opening that leads to a great discussion on what you've seen and experienced so far. I want to ask you this, though, because many have asked, and you said something very interesting. You said many should have known or seen that perhaps we were not going to have final exams. Is it the many being the professionals or the stakeholders? Because I can tell you as a parent, I didn't see it coming. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. And maybe that's because, too, I'm not in the public system. Mm-hmm. But are you not surprised as a new minister that we are still unable to have these sort of things? Or did you anticipate this walking in as the new Minister of Education?
Well, let me just say this, right? What I said was that last year the exams were not held. So it's contextual. It's not in a vacuum. Last year in public schools, exams were not held. And there were more favorable conditions because you had the hybrid learning. What has happened this time? You've had fully virtual. And that has posed a lot of challenges. In fact, I just saw someone post a message that the learning management system is not working. And what are you going to do about that? That is why we're doing this survey from the Department of Statistics, because one group may say it's working, and I've heard that. Others will say it's not working, and I've heard that. But the scientific data coming from the Department of Statistics will help us to definitively understand how the system is working, and if it's not working, why it's not working, what are the challenges that people are facing, because that's been a big problem, this issue of access to the learning management system for many people. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question about who would have had this expectation, I would just say this: they were not held last year when children were in school face to face. This year has been extremely challenging, and for even more than it might have been last year. And what I did say was that I think the notice could have been more timely, which would have, at least put doubts out of the minds of people. But I think that, I think there is an appreciation that we are not in a normal situation, and that, last year was better, and this year is not so. It was more challenging. And so from that point of view, I speculated that they would have known, or perhaps thought so. But in any event, it was the obligation to make a decision and to communicate it, and that is what happened ultimately. And here we are. I think we have to be very careful talking about issues that are, how do I put it? Because as I indicated, in the next term, which is a few weeks from now, there will be assessment as modalities. So no child is going to be prejudiced by this decision. As a result, there's no issue there, from what I am being advised from the ministry, and what's being agreed by the technical stakeholders, including teachers. I think, what we need to concentrate on is how are we going to get children back in school safely? How are we going to, because we're going to have to test every child, do diagnostic testing, so that we understand the extent of the learning loss. And, they measure it. A year of learning loss is tremendously significant and very prejudicial to that individual, that child. So one of the first things we're going to do is to do diagnostics to see where those children are, each individual child. and then thereafter put in place strategies to allow for that child to wherever it's humanly possible to catch up. We have what we're facing is a dual reality, as I said before. You have some children that are coping, that they're in the virtual system. We already saw 2 who said they're facing difficulty, who posted on this platform. But you have children that have been able to cope and who are in the system, who are getting on and who are doing the lessons. Those are the ones you are speaking of, who will probably be in the examination mode. And then you have the others, which are not insignificant, huge numbers, who've not been on. And so this is a duality, and we are trying to create a rational way forward. In my view, a rational way forward would not have been to do exams. I agreed with the advice, and I think the teachers and the principals agreed. So there was no dissension on that. There was an agreement on that. I think, I did not think that would have been the wisest thing at this time. What we have to focus on is when we go back in next term, allow those children to be assessed who should have taken the exams, those who want to go to tertiary education, ensure that whatever is required for them to keep moving forward from strength to strength, that we facilitate that. And then we have the other issue, which is the many children who have been out of the picture and who will require remedial work, really. So it's a very complex situation. The exams, I think, are not the most significant aspect of this dilemma, because as I said, come early next term, which is in a few weeks, there will be modalities to deal with that issue. It might have been, their views about it, and I accept anyone's point of view because that's their right. But I think there is a larger problem. And the question is, how do we address that larger problem? And one of them is the concerns about the learning management system.
Yes, I'm
getting mixed messages on that. But what I did, I asked them, the Department of Statistics, to let's forget what did this one say and that one saying. Let us do a scientific survey. Go out there and let us understand what have been the issues, and let us respond scientific based on that science. And they were able to do that fairly efficiently. And by next week, they've promised us the results. That's going to be invaluable for us to understand what has been the disadvantages for people and how do we respond. What I'm really saying to you, Nahaja, is we have to, as a people, because we are one people, we have one nation. Not everyone could go to Canada and all those places. Most of us are going to stay right here. And we want a qualitatively good country. We want good opportunities for our children. This situation right now with education is so serious. I'm trying to wonder if people understand how serious the situation is.
Let me ask you this, Minister.
I've been here a couple of months, but I could tell you, it's very, very serious.
And I'm glad that you brought it up, because I think too, you've said it a few times, and even you've mentioned it in your address many times in the House and in public and in private, that this is a concern of yours. Let me ask you this question. If you're just tuning in, Glenys Hannah Martin, Minister of Education and Vocational Training, joining us, technical and vocational training. When you walked into the Ministry of Education, and that's my curiosity wanting to know, what was the biggest surprise for you walking in? Because I think we got a sense of things, that of course, education is not how it should be. But you started talking about national crisis, an invisible crisis. And so I want to get, what did Glenys Hannah Martin see when she walked into the ministry in terms of data, or what was presented to you as a white paper? What were the concerns? Because that's what I'm very curious as to, because now you sounded an alarm, and I'm curious as to what was the trigger.
Right. Well, it's just more knowledge. The facts haven't changed, particularly when we went into a full virtual mode. That really exacerbated the situation. But this has been a continuing situation where, from the day of the pandemic, the first day, March 17th, whatever it was, to this day, there have been thousands of children who have fallen off the radar. And, I went to a meeting in UNICEF in France, and, I probably wouldn't Well, would not necessarily have gone, but I was very glad that I did go because it brought together many nation states. And this issue was discussed even with very wealthy nations. They experienced this. It's even worse with nations like ourselves, which is archipelagic and has multiple locations and schools all over the place and children. And then you have situations where through economics, people are not able to access internet and things of this nature. When I get the results from the Department of Statistics, I will know how many percent can't access internet, how many don't have electricity, how many say it was the system itself or whatever it is, how many say that there was no supervision, whatever the issues have been. We want to understand it because if we're going to continue in any form of virtual education, even on a hybrid way, we have to ensure that we get over those hurdles and not allow for children to be shut out. I am not going to be a part of any process that sees that and does not find that offensive and a matter of urgency. So to answer your question, it was just learning the facts as they are, and understanding that you got to move. You have to move. And so that is I did not necessarily understand before I came into education. I didn't even know I was coming into education. And when I did come, I had sort of a lot of things I'd love to do, which I still will, and I still do and will. But I had no idea that the immediate thing on the menu would have been this situation, which is, I am not going to get comfortable with it and say, oh, okay, I'm not doing that. Because the science is telling us that a child with learning loss is set back so far, and they're even postulating you could lose a generation. I cannot contemplate that in any shape or form. That is why I think, Nahaja, it's very important for parents, for the teachers, for the technical people in this ministry, for the principals, for the janitress, for the security officer, and every Bahamian to understand we have to have all hands on deck. You might have missteps. You might not have given the notice as early as you would like to have done that, or whatever the issue is. But we have to remember there's a core concern. It's big. And we got to remember, while we might be upset or don't like this or that, there is a core issue. It is fundamental to our development as a people. It is fundamental to the human right of a child. And so that is where we must focus. And, I'm going to sound the alarm. I'm going to ensure and ask everyone to get on board. If there are issues, let's thrash them out, because there's nothing more important than ensuring that this process of education is done in a safe and efficient way so our children can begin to again embrace such an important part of our humanity in a more wholesome way. And that is where we are. So to answer, just to summarize again, Nahaja, I didn't know when I came in here, I found out fast.
Yeah, Minister, interesting. And I love that you said, we need to thrash this out. Yesterday, I had the president of the Bahamas Union of Teachers, Belinda Wilson, on the show. And she was emphatic. And she said, and I quote, "I am not stuttering. I did not stutter," she said, when asked, "Are you calling for the removal of the Director of Education?" She contends that the Director of Education is the reason for the lack of mobility, is the impediment, and calling on you, the minister and the ministry, to perhaps consider that this is the challenge going across the board through consecutive administrations. There seems to be some issues that need to be thrashed out there. I want to ask you, what is your response to that?
Well, I mean, the president has her views. I can't respond. That's her view. I mean, that's how she sees it. But I will say this. This is a very complex situation, and it's imperfect. And, I think the only way it's going to be made more whole and more perfect is if we find a way to come to a common place. If the president of the union has views in relation to missteps or whatever it is, which is attributed to the director, but this is an entire team here. So I don't want to personalize anything like that, right? But I think that we have to find a way to make it work, because if there are issues, and even if they're recurring issues, we have to continuously go back at that to see how we can make it right. Because I can tell you, I've had I've known the president long before now, and we've had numerous discussions. And I've heard her express herself on many matters, and she has some very sound views on what's happening and what should happen, and I accept them. And so, as far as I am concerned, if there are issues in terms of any form of communication, we must find a way to centralize it and get to it. Because if you take the personality out and you look at what the issues are, okay? Let's look at the issues and let us see how we can deal with those issues, and then and see how we can move forward. I want to strongly recommend that, because otherwise, and it'll be a great tragedy, we will get stuck on this type of thing about this one and the next one, and we will have lost sight of a very central mandate, which if it is not addressed, we will pay a price. In a very short time, you will see a level of dysfunctionality in this country, that we would rule the day, that we could not rise above anything and everything so that we can get to that core issue. I understand that stakeholders are important. That's why they're called that. And they have to be in the mix. They have to participate. They have to contribute. I accept that 100%. But we cannot, we must find ways to get beyond any stumbling block, because the task ain't the path, that little stumbling block path. The task is, how do we get to that end game, which is getting our children back in school, giving them a chance so they could realize their human potential in this life. And we are very challenged in that right now, to a large extent.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about a bit more about the stakeholders. Teachers have their concerns, and their cry is that their voices haven't been heard in this process. They are saying there's so much extra work being put on them. One teacher said yesterday that she is not just a teacher anymore. She's also an administrator, an office worker. She has to spending time finding children who are not in class, that the LMS software isn't working. So let's have a discussion on that. We'll take a quick break. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja, Black Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. We'll be back right after this.
At Fidelity, the holidays are all about family, spending time with loved ones, and being thankful for the little things in life. Worrying about bills should be the last thing on your mind, especially during the holidays. Let Fidelity help you get your bills under control. Fidelity can also get you started with a real savings plan that actually pays you interest. The only thing you need to think about is what you will do with the savings in your pocket this Christmas. Now that's what I'm talking about. Fidelity Bank is here for you this holiday season, because you are family, and family is important to us.
You've heard about the 12 days of Christmas, but this year, Rev is giving you even more Christmas with 31 days of giveaways. Simply sign up or upgrade to Trio or pay your Rev bill in full. Then listen to yours truly, the Natural Empress, and Free Your Mind every weekday to find out if you've won prizes like 55-inch smart TVs and up to $20,000 in cold hard cash. Call 601-8992 today. Rev, you and us, together.
Food security is a challenge for many. Now in a pandemic, many more are unsure of their next meal. Through their Feed 5,000 program and a $20,000 donation, AML is working to ensure that everyone has a meal for the holidays, and they're inviting you to help. Now until December 17th, visit any Solomon's, Costrite, Fresh Market, or Domino's in Nassau or Freeport, and Exuma Markets in Georgetown to donate and help feed a family in need this Christmas. us. No amount is too small. Remember, we're all in this together.
Girl, you see how Cora eye look funny, all black up yesterday?
But she say she bump into a wall when she's running after the churn them.
Yeah, but last Saturday you see her arm was all black and blue, right?
So what you saying? You think something wrong between her and Jack?
I ain't sure, but you know Jack is a jealous man. I hear him and Cora last Friday. I hear him say he hear Cora have eyes for Junior.
Now you know that ain't true. Cora is a good woman, does mind her business, take care of them churn, and go to church every Sunday. So what you think we should do?
I think we should report Jack, you know. Cora don't say nothing, but silence hides violence, and we don't want to line up in the cemetery.
Not me. I ain't getting in nobody business, then Jack come after me, and I land up next to Cora.
No, man, we could call a text Crime Stopper. And remember, we can even get some grocery money for our tip.
Remind me again, how does this work?
We can call them in Miami at 328-TIPS or 328-8477. Or when we in the island, call toll-free at 300-TIPS or 300-8477. And if you don't have no minutes, use the Crack Crime Bahamas app and we could text them. And the messages get all mixed up before it leave your phone so nobody can know what you saying.
So what we waiting on then? Let's go earn some grocery money.
It's the hit back with Nahaja Black. It's the hit back with Nahaja Black. It's the hit back with Nahaja Black. It's the hit back with Nahaja Black.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. We have joining us the Minister of Education, the one and only Glennis Hannah Martin, joining us on the show. Minister, I'm telling you, my phone, I text messages. We have a lot of folks with great wanting to get some responses from you with questions that they have as concerned parents and teachers. But before we get to those, I want to go on to that subject of the teachers, right? That they feel as if they are being left out of the discussion. Software such as the LMS has caused a lot of challenges for them, for a few of them. And those are the ones that reach out to me. So I haven't gotten ones who praise LMS reach out to me, but those who have concerns with the software and wondering, is it not easier for us to switch to Google Classroom? What has the ministry so far, what have you seen as minister with the software? Do you feel confident that we can iron out the bumps and the kinks, or are there other considerations?
Well, you had a number of observations in there, and I think I should address each one. Let me assure you, some teachers do praise it. That's just the reality. Some don't. Some say it's not user-friendly, and we know a lot of children are not on it at all. That is why we have sought to go to the Department of Statistics so we can understand what is happening. The other thing, I think, the other deficit, I believe, I was not around at the time, I think that there should have been training for teachers on the use of the system. And maybe because it had to happen quickly, I don't know. I'm not in a position to say why or how. But I think that was a major what's the word I want? I guess gap, I'll use that word, that there was not greater training of teachers in the use of this system. So teachers have been having difficulty. In terms of the consultation, I know that as it relates to the issues that we're talking about in terms of the examinations and the opening of school, agreeing that we go back into school, and even tentatively the dates, because I know I spoke to stakeholders myself, that I know that there has been dialogue on those issues. Now, if there are aspects of it where there are gaps, well, we will have to address that. But certainly I'm not of the view that there's been no dialogue. I do know that there have been some issues, because I know there were some things that went out and it caught people by surprise, things of that nature. And so, we will have to work more effectively on ensuring that we integrate communication in a way in which it is seamless and that it is able to, bring a comfort level to everyone and not create anxiety in a moment. That's that issue. That's the second issue. And I think, what was the third issue again?
No, that's a good question now too. 'Cause I think I forgot. But, yeah, but
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that this has been a difficult time for teachers. And yes, this is particularly for those who had difficulty with the system. It has been very, very frustrating. This has not been perfect for anybody. You have thousands of children, let me say it again, thousands and thousands who are out there, who have not been in school for almost 2 years. Okay? So this has been a totally out of whack scenario. And yes, it's been hard on even with parents. Parents, I see them all the time. I see them in the food store and all that. When you're going to get back to school? Parents are challenged. They got to go to work. Some don't have, they say they don't have devices. They don't have internet. And then you have teachers who have to be at the front line of the situation. And it's challenging. It's been difficult, stressful. Some of them are teaching very large classes. So, this has been a situation that has been very difficult. And if anyone, I can't speak for my predecessor, but if I could have made this perfect, I would have. But it's not. It's a crisis. And in this crisis, there's been fallout, which includes how many teachers have fared in this process, parents, and most importantly, the children. And so what I'm saying too is that, while I understand and appreciate and respect what has happened and how we got here, I think the important thing is let us see how we can move it forward. I personally don't get bogged down where you ain't do this and you ain't do that. And it's important to have the discussion, don't get me wrong, because we have to make sure we don't have those discussions, that people do not feel as if they've not been respected or consulted appropriately. But I don't want to get stuck on that. I want us to deal with that and move forward, because what we're dealing with is not that. What we really got to deal with is this crisis, which is going to impact our national development as a people. And I concede that, and I don't concede, I agree, that we have to ensure that we create modalities for better communications. And I think at some point I'm going to meet with teachers globally, so that I'm able to communicate directly with teachers on this one, because I have the utmost respect for teachers. I'm not a teacher, but I started my career in the public service in the Ministry of Education in 1981. I'd come straight out of university. So I was there for 3 years. So I have a great insight into the mechanics of what this whole process involves. By no means what a teacher does. I used to say that a teacher, and it might sound a little blasphemous, but I used to say a teacher was the closest you can get to God, because they are in the business of shaping the lives and building confidence and really molding a child, unlike how a parent does that also. But
let me ask you this. Sorry. No, again.
In that environment, in the school, in the classroom, what that access that teacher has, I don't know anywhere else where that kind of access takes place, unless you're being homeschooled and the parent has that access in that way also. So teachers are, incredibly critical stakeholders in this process. So
let me ask you. Oh, sorry. Because of time, Minister.
You go ahead.
So I want you to finish. Because of time, I know we're running out of time.
Yeah.
One of the questions that keeps coming up, and I think that's one. It's a valid one. And I gather, because I know now I understand the answer, but I want you to answer this for our listeners. The question that is constantly coming up is, we have private schools that are doing hybrid. Mm-hmm. The government schools have not done hybrid. What is the reason for that? And is there, what is the reason for that?
Well, the decision was made before I came. And so I don't know what informed the decision at that time. Certainly when I came aboard and began to get an understanding of the incredible fallout that's happening in this country, I wanted to do all that I could to make sure we get our children back in school. The Ministry of Health, however, did not support that view at this time and at that time. And so we are now looking at, and they now support us to get into, starting face-to-face in January in a hybrid form. So, it's a legitimate question. It's a policy question. I think that, but now it's water under the bridge because right now we're moving forward to trying to regularize the situation, and that's my objective right now. How do we regularize the situation as soon as possible, get our children back? I came into this ministry, as I previously indicated. I have some strong views about how we could really take education, I hope and pray, to the next level and just bring new paradigms and do, look at the curriculum, all these things. And we're still thinking about those things and working on them. But on the table and in front of us is this issue. I'm very relieved that in January, we will be able to begin the process of getting our children back in school. I'm praying that this pandemic fades out and to become, how all pandemics have eventually faded out, and that we will be able to, to achieve a greater sense of normalcy in our lives in general, but in particular in the schools. So, Nahaja, let me just say, I know teachers have had a difficult time. I know that it has been beyond challenging. I know it has been stressful. I know that because I've been told this, and I'm sure of it. The only thing I would ask of everyone is let us see where the errors or deficiencies or whatever the problems are, if it's the LMS, whatever it is. And like I say, the Department of Statistics is going to help us with that. Let us seek to deal with those issues, because the main issue is coming together in an undivided way to cause for our children to get the best that we can give them in this crisis, because it is a huge challenge for us to address this issue right now.
Someone, if you can just tuning in, Minister of Education, Glenys Hannah Martin, joining us. We have here with this now, Minister, teachers are asking some policy or some concerning questions. One teacher talked about, listen, we need a raise. We need an increase. We're stressed out. We're working hard. Someone asked about a bargaining agreement. Texters are saying this is immediate. No more talking about it. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. But the main question that comes to me is vision. You've hit on some ideas that you've had, but many want to know, what is the transformational step? What is Glenys Hannah Martin, whom many consider, a fighter for the people, or, considered to be a great female politician, or just a politician overall, one of the winningest. What is Glenys Hannah Martin planning to do vision-wise with the Ministry of Education? What would you want to be your lasting legacy?
Okay, but let me just answer those queries that you put on the record. I got to deal with them. The negotiations for the industrial agreement, when I took office, I would think within a few days, I asked that it resume forthwith. And they did. And they're at the table. I don't know whether there was a lull or some, I don't know. I don't know what happened before, but I know when I took office, it began almost immediately. So that process is going on. On the issue of pay for teachers, if I could wish something, it would be that teachers, because we've seen this in other jurisdictions where education fares very well, where the teacher's salary is amongst the highest in those countries, in those jurisdictions, up there with whoever, the engineers and whatever, because there was an appreciation and understanding of the role teachers play in national development. And so, I don't know, in light of where we are and where the salaries are in this country and all of that, whether that's a conversation for this minute, because this minute right now is, and like I said, the negotiations are going on. And so we'll see what comes out of that. I don't get involved in it. They have the technical people, the union is at the table, and they will come to a consensus and it will come to the government and you move forward. But I think that, yes, I understand that teachers I understand where they're coming from. They want greater pay. They want probably higher respect in terms of the role that they play I in this country and in national development. And hopefully that will come. And, I would love to be the one who marshals something of that nature. I can't promise it, but I would love to be the one, because I, for one, understand that relationship of a teacher with a student. I remember my own teacher, our teachers who inspired me. And, I tell them inspired me and lit a fire that took me where I am right now, many decades later. So teachers, their role is so critical and so important. And I think that, we have to do, and I hope that as we go forward in the weeks and months and years, that we will be able to demonstrate to teachers, if not in the way they wish, but in any other way, that how they are respected and valued in this country. But on the issue of the vision starts really with a premise, and the premise is that you have.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought, Minister. We got to go to news. And I know you wanted to end at 5, but I feel the Spirit is leading you, Minister, to give me 10 more minutes after the news break. I feel it. So don't go anywhere. All right. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Minister Glennis Hannah Martin joining us on the show. We will be back right after this.
Planning on gift shopping, visiting family and friends, or going out to dinner during the holidays? Don't forget to pay attention to the latest public health protocols and regulations. We must continue to wash our hands and sanitize frequently. Wear our masks. Avoid touching our faces. Cough and sneeze into our elbows, and maintain a distance of at least 3 feet away from others in public. If we all follow these tips, we can have a happy and healthy holiday season.
This message brought to you by Bahamas Ministry of Health in conjunction with Guardian Radio.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit
Listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. The questions are very good and coming in fast, but I want to get the ministers. Minister, what's your vision? You mentioned you were talking about vision. Minister of Education, Glennis Hannah Martin.
Thank you.
What's the vision that you have for the ministry?
Can I just take a little detour, Nahaja? I saw someone mention, I think I should be fair to mention that, and this is another aspect. So one of the persons posting indicated that, and I'll put it like that, that there has to be a greater participation of parents in this process. And that is why, that's one of the reasons why, Nahaja, I'm trying to focus on the singular issue, because the stakeholders have to find a common space and place. If we are in different directions and haggling over issues, you didn't do this or you didn't do that, or this wasn't, and I'm not saying these are not legitimate concerns. We have to get beyond them. We have to find the common places and move beyond them. But we have to get to the core issue, and part of that is our parents. And I think the poster that I just saw, the poster was indicating that packets have been done for children who are not able to get online, so that they're able to do them and whatever. But it's just a challenging situation all around. I think parents are challenged, teachers are challenged. The ministry has faced huge challenges. And the nation will face a challenge if we do not get on top of this issue. So I just think that we should find that place of cooperation wherever it is. If we've made errors, whoever, either side, whoever, let us deal with the errors. Let's correct them, and let us find the formula for ensuring that we do not that we avert a disaster in this country. But on the issue of the vision, one of the first things I noted when I came into this ministry, and I was noting it long before I came in, because I went to graduations, which was so celebratory and so nice, and you feel so good. And then I was at one at R.M. Bailey, and the principal got up and he said, half of your classmates are not here. And which is a fact, is a statistical fact. I'm told it's now 60% graduation rate, but at that time it was 50%. So half of the class was not even meeting a graduation standard. We have to look at that. That's not acceptable. That we can't just say every year that's what's happening. That's not acceptable. We have to look at that and see how we can ensure that children, whatever it is, you look at the GLAD exams at grade 3, is there some signal they're saying there? How do we target these signals to ensure that children there are interventions so that we do not have half of your graduation population not graduating, and the question is, what's next? So you have to look at that. And then you look at the examination results. And I'm not an expert on this. I'm getting advice on how these examinations work and, why you only can get a grade C in the BGCSE and all this kind of thing. So I can't speak to it because I need to be properly advised on it. But certainly the results or the outcomes do not sound encouraging to me. I mean, and I could be wrong, but they don't sit comfortably in my spirit. Also, the time is overdue that we do not have a curriculum in place that deals with physical education, deals with the performing arts, that deals with the history of our people, that helps children become good citizens in terms of what's on that curriculum, in terms of their personal development, their ethics. It's not all about the academics. And in that regard, we have this government has created a very strong component, which is technical and vocational. And I can assure you, you will see some very strong positionings on those areas because not every child is going to become a nuclear scientist. Children are different, people are different, and all this makes the world go round. Okay, I needed a plumber today. One of the pipes broke in my yard, and you got a plumber. But it's not just plumbing and carpentry and that things. It could involve artificial intelligence. It is the full spectrum of technical and vocational. And so we have to utilize that platform to ensure our children are competitive, that we're tapping into their potentiality. I start from a premise in this ministry that our children are brilliant, and I believe that. I came in here believing that. I was believing it all my life. And I ain't gonna come in here and start not believing it. The question is, how do we, through our methodologies, through our curriculum, through our teaching, we might even have to go back and see how teachers are taught at UB to see whether there's anything to look there. Nobody's perfect in this scenario. We are all in this experiment, and the experiment is not getting the outcomes that we wish. We want the best possible outcomes for our children and for our nation. And
let me ask you.
Sorry?
And I want to ask you this question, and my apologies for interrupting, but I know you have to go, but I want to get this in. What the concern is, we now know that we have students who are not in school.
Yeah.
We know that there's quite a bit, and that we are hoping when we go into the hybrid model, that we will recapture some of those students, right? Will there be any allowances? Will we be doing summer school for them to catch up? Will we be doing extended hours? And has the Ministry of Education, if it is considering it, has that consideration reflected any changes, or will it reflect any changes in the budget come June for teachers and expenses?
Well, I think that when you start talking substantively about what needs to be done, because we have to look at that, because that's coming up sooner rather than later. I think that we have to consider, if not extended hours, Saturdays. We got to do what we have to do. Of course, in those discussions, we have to speak with the stakeholders. We have to speak with the teachers because they're the primary deliverers. And so I could say here everything in the air and say we can do this and we can do that. But we need to sit with them and see what would be involved should those strategies be deployed. But it seems to me that that these things must be on the table, because I'm not sure if you can do what has to be done within the normal school week, and knowing that you're only doing half of that or whatever it is in face-to-face. It's mixed, and so all of those issues, whatever will need to be done, we're going to have to do it. And it will have to be reflected in the budget, because it is an absolute mandate that we have to ensure our children do not fall between the cracks, particularly children who come from communities like ones I represent, who are facing challenges across the board. And we know that education is the great equalizer. And so we have to ensure that no child, you have children with special needs. This has been horrendous for many children with special needs to be in front of a computer. And so, I think what I want to say, Nahaja, let us not recriminate each other. If the ball has been dropped or you feel something has not been right, Let us see how we can correct it, because we have to be a fully fueled engine for the sake of those children. And when I talk about that, I'm including the parents, because the parents are primary in this, and they have to come to an understanding that the hope for their child is through this process of education. That is the hope. I just got a letter from someone for a child born in growing in very difficult circumstances. I mean, really in poverty, serious poverty conditions. And the child, she's a woman now. She just finished her first degree. She is such a high achiever, and she was embedded in these challenges, these poverty conditions challenges. We have to do what we have to do for the sake of our children and for the sake of this nation, because we are a great people and we are a great nation. And I want the teachers to work with me. I'm inviting the unions to work with me, and so that we are able to meet their concerns and move forward together to achieve the objective for our children. I can't say it strongly enough.
And you're saying it very strong. And I wonder though, Madam Minister Hannah Martin, I'm wondering, because we look at it, but this pandemic, we know that doctors and nurses have been a shortage, right? And you can hear the discussion on how do we, work on, even just today, I noticed in the news today, Dr. Darville, Minister of Health, speaking on the challenges of gathering nurses and doctors. And we know that the previous administration knew that was important. How is this alarm that you're sounding? Is this government, is the Davis administration very much physically, emotionally aware of this crisis that you speak about? Because I don't think many feel as if that this is something that is reverberating within the lexicon, within the speech of the upper bureaucratic realm. So is this something that you believe that all of your stakeholders in government are aware of and are pushing the envelope? We need to get more teachers. We need to get more spaces where hybrid learning. We have reached out to the churches for their auditoriums. What is that urgency felt within government?
Well, let me say this. There's only one Minister of Education. And I've spoken about this at least 2 times in communications to the Parliament. And I have said from day one, this is a crisis. We're in an emergency situation. And I've said it now, I've said it twice too. And I'm saying it again now, and I say it wherever I go. On the issues that you've raised, we're going to employ or deploy all of those strategies. And there is a sense of urgency. I hope I'm communicating it. I hope I'm not sitting here and saying, oh, it's an emergency and shaking in my chair. This is an emergency. And we are mobilized to address the emergency. So, and in terms of the government, I'm a minister of the government. In terms of them understanding what is the situation, they absolutely do. But Darville will speak about, his hands are full on the issue, and he's talking about what he is mandated to. He took an oath on health. I took an oath on education. And so, but he's aware. The Prime Minister is aware. There's the deputy. No one is not aware, not unaware. Is that not unaware?
No, wait, you were good the first time. No one is unaware.
You know what I mean.
We're good with that.
So, but on the issue of teacher shortages, that's one of the things I learned when I came into office here. There is this issue. What I did, I did an audit of how many teachers are in the system and where are the deficiencies. There's a particular teacher listening right now, and I won't call her name to embarrass her, but she is one of the persons who alerted me to the heavy class load she had in English. And so we did the audit to see where the gaps are and what subjects where there are deficiencies. And I've also been told that teacher shortages is a global thing, like nurses. And so and probably for the same reason that there are teacher shortages in terms of remuneration. I don't know what the reason is. And so what we have to do now is to see how we can incentivize teachers or young people to join the profession so that we're able to stimulate more engagement for the purposes of becoming teachers. So yes, we are concerned. There's a teacher cadet program, which I'm told was affected in the pandemic. But there is a program, or they might still be doing it, I'm not sure. I think they're still doing it. But what it does, it targets young people in the school system who want to be teachers. And so it sort of nurtures them and mentors them into the profession. And then they get scholarship into UB. So we are looking at that. But Nahaja, these are not new issues. These are structural issues. They've been long-standing. And I am one minister of education that is saying that the status quo has to be revisited. That's my position, not, oh, it's good and you had 40% and all that. That's not me. Because my expectations are very high for the children in this country. And so, and of course, the political term is very short, but in the time in which I have, you will see me working tirelessly with the team, with the stakeholders, teachers and parents, and the principals, to see how we can achieve the objectives that we would all love to see in this country. That's where my focus is, and I'm driven by that. I'm not looking left or right. I'm not even smiling. I'm very serious about it. We have to find a way to bring about a transformation in the educational system, which includes teacher shortages, the student performance. It includes the dialogue with teachers, with or the unions, with the state, with with managers, whatever it is. We have to find a way to move beyond these issues because they're holding us back. And I don't want to preside over a situation where we continue to be held back. We have to unleash our children and let them get out there and realize who they are. And this is not rhetoric. This can happen because our children are brilliant. And we have to get to that issue. Let's deal with that and let's see how we can stimulate the brilliance. I see someone posting that teachers have not been more frustrated. Let me say it again. This has been a frustrating time for parents, for children, and for teachers. This is not a perfect environment. We know teachers have worked very hard. We know they're frustrated. We know they're stressed and stretched. We know that. We know that. These are created by circumstances that we have found ourselves in. What we have to do now is see how we can move beyond this. I know people feel hurt, whatever it is, but let us move beyond the hurt and see how we can find the healing and take our children forward. That's what I'm concentrating on. I didn't come back into public life to just float around and say I'm a minister. I'm not interested in that. I'm dead serious. We got to affect change in this country, and we need everybody on board, all hands on deck. That's the way it is. It ain't gonna happen otherwise. And I feel very sad that we haven't been able to get all hands on deck to achieve the important objective.
Minister, thank you so much for your time. Glennis Hannah Martin, of course, there's so many questions that folks have, but we don't have time to go through them all. But thank you for the time that you've shared with us, and look forward to having you on more. Of course.
Well,
I appreciate
you're the only
you.
one who got me just before the election, It was like a couple of days before.
Thank you so much, Minister. You're the best.
Thank you to your audience, and thank you, Nahaja. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Minister Glennis Hannah Martin joining us, the Minister of Education and Vocational and Technical Training. Thank you so much for that. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, let's hash that out. Let's talk. I want to hear from you, your thoughts on what the minister shared. Was that enough information for you? For our teachers, and I thank you so much, teachers, my teachers. I love y'all to pieces, and your commentary is fantastic as usual. I want to get some thoughts with you. My good friend C.A. Nuri joins me after the break. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Call in, text. We'll be back right after this.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Do you worry that you or your loved ones may get COVID-19 and possibly die from it? Getting a COVID-19 vaccine can lower your risk of severe illness or death from COVID-19. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is available, and you only need one shot. One and done and fully vaccinated for now. Talk to a healthcare professional about your concerns and about getting vaccinated. To be safe, continue to wash your hands, wear your face mask, practice physical distancing, and get vaccinated.
This message has been brought to you by the Ministry of Health and this radio station.
When I had got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. That's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. So we just had the Minister of Education join us on the show, Glenys Hannah Martin, the Minister Glenys Hannah Martin joining us on the show. I want to bring in my good friend, C.A. Nuri, who was backstage and listening to the show. But I also want to get your thoughts and your comments and your thoughts on it. Because of the time constraint, I didn't want to take the calls to throw it off a bit, but I want you to call in now if you have any thoughts or, commentary on that conversation. 323-6232, 325-4316, or 325-4259. And you can also text us at 422-4796. That's 422-4796. CA, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm well. I listened to your interview yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to your interview today, and I am sad. I'm sad and I'm disappointed, and I am not content and not agreeable with any of the responses by the minister, nor the responses by the union head, and very less the minister. The union head, I understand her issues and her concerns, and I can appreciate what she's doing, right? But the information the minister gave just now leaves me in a point where in dismay, to the point where I am in a panic. I am in a panic and dissatisfied, and the information she gave is not adequate, and I shall not take her off the case. She is at the head, and she's at the helm, and she should be held responsible. And we in the Bahamas, as parents, as teachers, and as citizens of the Bahamas, need to say shame.
Shame on which part? What's the shame on? Okay, so let's give us some points.
The excuses that she gave, mind you.
Which excuses?
I'm happy that you asked me to, so I could go into it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I give her the benefit of the doubt for starting in September.
Mm-hmm.
This issue we're facing now is 2 years long.
Mm-hmm.
This didn't happen last week,
Mm-hmm.
This didn't happen September. This is from March, 2 years long.
March 2020.
We didn't get it right yet, because I conclude this is as good as we get. This is the best the Bahamas could put forward. That tells a tale about the Department of Education, the Ministry of Education, our leaders, our parents, and the Bahamas society as a whole. We faltering. This is a national crisis. And the excuse she gave for a national crisis, the lack of urgency, means that we are about to crash and burn. And what she said now, saying, oh, give me time, I'm waiting on a report, while 2 years later, we have kids that not just fall through the cracks, got buried under the cracks. We're walking on them because there's no job. We already know we were failing 10, 20, 30 years ago, right? So to know that we have a pandemic and we haven't instituted checks and balances by now, that the Department of Education haven't identified the persons who are missing by now, they haven't identified the programs to initiate by now, means that we are inadequate as a society, and we need to cry shame on us, shame on the Department of Education, shame on the Ministry of Education, and shame right now. I mean, I can say shame on the African because Jeff Lloyd was there for a while, but shame on Minister Hannah Martin. And this is where we need to be. We can't be sugarcoating. We can't be sugarcoating and say, oh yeah, don't worry, I can give you more time. Come January, we can see where we are. September, October, November, and we don't know where 30% of the students is. We just don't know. Just don't know if they're living or they dead, or if they have the electricity. If it's the platform, we said, no, just give us some more time. Just give us some more time. That's all we need, some more time. And they expect us to be here and say, okay, yeah, take the time. Take it next year and be grateful. No. I feel as if they failed me. Definitely they failed me.
Who's failed you? Who do you feel has failed you?
The administration, the Bahamian society, all have failed these children, and we need to do more. And when I say do more, I just talking about basic things, You know how big Nassau is? I'm not sure if you know how big Nassau is or New Providence is. The last time I checked, New Providence only 21/7. You could walk that. With a car, one person could drive around Nassau and find every single student who's missing. So imagine 4 months later, I'm supposed to be able to say, hey, you ain't been to school for 2 years. I need to find what's wrong. If you don't have electricity, fine. I go with that, no. Let me give you a solution on no electricity. If you don't have a apparatus, a device to go on the internet, I go with that too. You could have called and say, let me make a call on the Nahaja Black Show and say I have 300 students without a device, but they have electricity and internet. Overnight, we can solve that. If you said there's no electricity at home, you could call the school and say, we have 30 students who have no, it can't be more than, it got to be a limited number, right? A number that we count. If it's 100 students, we can open up a school and say, for you 100 students, you can come to the school and use our electricity. You can use our internet. But to say we don't know, to say we're still working on it, to say, oh, it's a problem globally, and the island only 21/7, and we still don't know. Oh man, I can't just let that thing. See, I know there are some people say, oh, but it's the parents. We have broken parents. I know the neighborhood that I came out of, right? The parents make money by selling themselves, by selling drugs. This is their life. They already have their child map up saying, hey, when you reach 12, I have a trade for you. They already broken, they're corrupted. It's the school who normally goes in and save those children so they don't have to go into that because their parents are broken. We now have a disconnect. We know that according to the statistics, when you have a recession, teenage pregnancy skyrockets, go up by 10, 15%, 20%. We go into recession. So we know our teenage pregnancy numbers is going to go up, right? We know what the problem is, but no one is doing steps to checks and balance to save our children, especially when we know that we have a broken society? We don't know it's broken. We don't need to be reminded about that. We know we've had a D average for decades. You know, we changed the system to say, let me catch one or two of them by making sure that if you graduate, you need to have 5 BJCs.
Mm-hmm.
The children don't even having 5 BJCs at grade 12. We don't even have enough. We so bad, we don't even say you have to take the exam. We say you're exempted from the exam, you know, because we don't have enough teachers. It's COVID. So you need the 5 BJCs, not BGCSE, 5 BJCs to graduate, and we ain't allowing them to take it. We set them up. We set them up to fail. It's a conspiracy. And I believe the conspiracy is being joined by those in the authority. It's being joined by the minister. It's being joined by the director of education. It's being joined by the teachers, being joined by the parents, and we need to do better. I can't give them an excuse. I can't give them leeway. All I can picture is 30% of our students missing. Just don't know where they are. They ain't in school. They ain't in class. And nobody took the effort to go look for them.
And let's go there. Let's have this discussion. CA Nuri joining me. CA coming out the blocks real strong, real hard. And there is some great points, and I agree with a good percentage of what you said, Cecil. I agree with a good percentage of what you said. I have one thing where I'm meditating on now, right? Because this is what threw me, what threw me, CA, was I get this memo that says we're not having exams again, right? I get this memo that we're not having exams again, and it's a week that, mind you, there was something that was floating about and it was deemed fake news. Come to find out, not having exams wasn't fake news. It was real there. Maybe just fake on maybe 1 or 2 bits of information. But that threw me, right? Because you know what that tells me now? And I'm sitting in this space. Why it threw me is because my kids are in school. My kids are in school. My daughters are going to be doing exams. They started exams last week and they'll finish exams this week. They even done Christmas play. See, so they already did a Christmas play. All right. And their school recorded it. And we're going to go watch it as a family with social distancing over the course of, I think, that all the parents can to watch this thing. My children's school is working. It's doing its thing. My children have not skipped a beat. They are doing blended or virtual, this hybrid learning. So, you're floored that we have a great or large pocket of our children in the government sector, obviously in the public sector, that are not in school, not learning. That stunned me. And you know what? Well, Jesus, we're still here. We're still here.
2 years later.
18, not even 18, we're still here. We haven't learned anything, right? We haven't gotten better. Now I have to ask the question, why haven't we gotten better? I didn't need Belinda Wilson to come here on the show yesterday and say there's a constant, right? I didn't need to hear that there is a constant. I figured out that, okay, something ain't right. What is the challenge? Why is there a constant? And then it made me say, well, Lord, I might have been too hard on the other guy. Mind you, I wasn't impressed with his work either. But Jesus, I didn't think that this was going to be this constant. Now, so it makes me wonder now, and I'm going to give excuses, but it makes me wonder, at what point do we get it right? At what point do we stop and say, this what we're doing is not working? One of these things is just not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. Can you tell me which one is not like the other before we finish this song? One thing just ain't working. What is the system? What is the part in this cog, in this wheel of education at this point? I ain't even trying to go into fixing the curriculum to save the world at this point. I thought we were going to get past that. My children are in school. I feel like the pandemic is going behind me because I'm getting a little bit more normalcy in my life. But now you learn that there's thousands, tens of thousands, the vast majority of our students are not getting the type of education that they need. Teachers, every term, I get teachers who are saying, you know why this conversation even started? Teachers were tagging me. Nahaja, what is this? Look at, I'm doing double work getting stuff entered into LMS. Teachers were saying it has gotten worse. And so here is where I have some of my challenges. We are getting better. We're not getting smarter. And I now have to ask the question, what hasn't changed? And that to me is that the content, there must be some accountability on what hasn't changed. Do I put this at Glennis Hannah Martin's feet? No. Was I impressed thoroughly by her statements of vision? No, I won't lie to you. I wasn't impressed, but I will say this, that, okay, this was not her ministry. She was shocked. Reports to me was that she was stunned that she even got this ministry. I think she thought she was going into aviation.
Nahaja, you see how you're interrupting me, right?
Uh-huh.
Last year, you and I had several shows speaking about the deficit in education because of COVID.
Yeah.
Right? We spoke about the handicap that Ministry of Education is having and the students are having because of COVID. We spoke about them not having devices. We spoke about them not having electricity. We spoke about the platform. Nahaja, the nation knew what was going through. You can't tell me you just found out. Nahaja, my child knows about the handicaps Ministry of Education is going through because of COVID. Nahaja, last year I requested and solicited on my Facebook page 400 devices. 400 devices which I donated to schools. You know why I solicited the devices? Because the school in Foxville said they didn't have any. I was contacted by the priest of St. Anne's Anglican Church on Foxville, right? And he contacted me and said, Cecil, do you know where we can find devices for the schools in Foxville because they are lacking? And I said, I don't have no devices. I can barely have one for my own child, right? And he said, but they need it. So I asked Facebook, and I ended up with 400 plus devices. Then I found out there were people in the community who didn't have electricity. So I asked again, and I was able to get facilities would give them electricity and internet access by just finding out who needed it. So Nahaja, the excuse of saying, but I was not aware, means that for the last...
Caesar, come on now. You won't give... Okay, hold on.
She was not aware.
No, wait.
She was not aware.
No, wait.
She wasn't paying
What do we
attention.
say? What do we say about government? What do we say about government, right?
They're inept.
Say what?
They're inept. That's what we say about them.
All right. That we understand that there is some things that are stalemate. Even, listen... No, Cecil. Some things,
answer the call.
Some things are not done. Oh, you guys, come on now. Let's be real. One of the worst ministries in this entire country. There's two terrible ministries. The Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. Why do I say that? We don't need to go far. Epic failures in the healthcare system. Epic. I mean, we still have to figure out why things are spent and results aren't cast.
So you agree it's a failure then?
What? Say what?
You agree it's a failure?
Of course I agree it's a failure. The ministry is a failure. The ministry is a failure. See, so let's go back some years. What is one of the main things that I've said when I remember saying, you know what? One of the biggest challenges every minister, and if you talk to ministers across the board, every single one, FNM, PLP, independent, it doesn't matter. You know what they tell you? That really they are having to adjust and work in a system that has been built there. And one of the things I've said to you from long before was one of the challenges I believe every minister faces is that they walk into a permanent secretary who is the boss of the ministry. If the permanent secretary, I had one minister tell me that they called the acting permanent secretary, not the then deputy permanent secretary, into work. To a meeting on a Saturday, and they said, well, I cannot come to work on Saturday, probably because it's government. I don't know how these things go, but I can't come to work on Saturday unless my PS tells me, knowing full well they have no PS. So this is government bureaucracy. So that's the first thing. I've always said that the walking into a permanent secretary, certain people should be moved. And I asked this question years ago. Why can't you just move a stumbling block? You know how many people are in government that don't work? So that's the first thing. I think we just need to be realistic and honest and fair in our assessment here, right? Because you got to be honest and fair with the assessment. We didn't get on Jeff when he first started. We gave Jeff Lloyd sufficient time to do what he needed to do in the first 2 years. Jeff Lloyd didn't come under fire until the pandemic. And that was the revelation in handling. Mind you, he was talking a lot about, all of a sudden he changed his tone about what the average is. And, that's not bad. And that's when people are like, okay, you can't be serious now. All of a sudden you switch your tone. We know the D ain't a good grade. All of a sudden that can't be the gold standard because you've seen some documents and notes. Do we give any leeway to the Ministry of Education for what results they need to provide? Heck no. They need to provide results. I am not moved necessarily by things you say. It's by things you do. And what we need to see happen with the Ministry of Education and with the minister, hoping that she can deal with her ministry, is actual tangible results. But to come here, I believe, to say, shame, 2.5 months in, and she's actually getting statistics and data. I can't say that. Let me see that data. I say, let's see that data.
New Providence is only 21/7.
But this is the Bahamas. I'm talking about New Providence. I'm talking about the Bahamas.
And I don't even know where they even get this 30%. And
I don't know either. But yet you don't want them to get that. I want to know that data as well. Where did they get that from?
2 years ago, they mentioned 30% to them.
Mm-hmm. 2 years.
For 2 years, they keep on talking about this anecdotal.
And it's fixed. And it's fixed. It's a fixed 30%. Like, it don't change. It don't fluctuate. It don't go up or down.
And we are now calling for them to, not in September, no. Mm-hmm. Calling for them at the end. But ma'am, it's Christmas time. So I already write off Christmas. We ain't doing no work. Right? Yeah. So come January, right? Mm-hmm. We will be investigating where this 30% number, I know it can take you a while before they start up. So by February, we'll find out that yes, there's 30%. Or no, there's 20%. Then we'll do another analysis trying to find out what is wrong.
But isn't that what we do? And it frustrates me. I'm with you.
You know what June gonna happen? Mm-hmm. We ain't gonna have no BJC and BJC and BGCSE exams again, right?
But
these students can graduate again, right?
Listen, it's crazy to me.
We should have worked on something, right? Mm-hmm. But it is what it is, though. I still maintain this is the best of the Bahamas radio. I have
I'll never maintain that.
I know it ain't the best. And as long as there are people who give excuses and saying we cannot correct it, I show you the conclusion is the same.
I don't think anybody said you can't correct it. Now, what we're missing is the actual, because I've never heard anyone say we can't correct it. I'm even thinking Jeff Lloyd never said we can't correct it. What we've always missed, though, is the actual strategic steps by which to correct it. So what you saw yesterday, I think, with Belinda Wilson was that she gave some recommendations, not strategic, but more recommendations.
She gave that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you. She'll continue to say the same thing and go with recommendations, and here to be implemented. This is as good as it gets.
And I think that shows then
what she said was not new. She said it before.
This is what shows then that we need to have some real changes. And this is where the minister has to decide if the results that they're getting is quality enough for their. I'm a legacy person, Cecil. I'm a legacy person. I don't believe in all the talk. You got to do the work. Now, Madam Glennis Hannah Martin has said on the show, mind you, I was hoping for more detail. But
hope.
I am a hopeful woman. Yeah. I am a hopeful woman. But I am always looking for more detail. I await. I am always, for me, my excitement comes that she actually asking for data. I don't get data. We don't get data. I look to see about this data and what the Department of Statistics actually asked to do. And then let's see, because I like the fact that you make decisions based on information, on anecdote. And that is powerful to me. If we actually get valuable intel, then now, what you gonna do?
Nahaja, for 2 years, and the Department of Education didn't get no data yet. That tells the tale.
But then you saying it's whose fault is that?
The Department of Education.
The Department of Education. But you say it's shame, and now she's getting the data, so you can't say shame to her.
Who is in charge of the Department of Education?
And the minister now is getting the data, so you can't say shame to her. No. You can't decide.
2 years ago.
You cannot decide how you want state of swing. You can't decide how you want swing this.
What happened to the child who graduated the two sets of graduation 2 years ago? There you're ready. The set who graduated 2 years ago during COVID.
Ain't no data on them.
See, you want your hands off of them.
Ain't no data on them.
You see? I'm talking about the set who finished school with no papers.
Listen,
and the set who can finish school again.
But what I want to know is, you know what I would hope? When someone says, how long will the data take to reach? She said 10 days. So now, that's government 10 days. I'm hoping that it is actually 10 days and then not 10 days after Christmas. Because, New Year's, we're hoping that the Department of Statistics makes that available. But I agree with you, Cecil. I would love to see what happens now. What I would like to know, too, is a little bit more data on what is the pitfall? What do we calculate? If we say that, let's say 30% of our students are not in school, I would like to see the studies of what does that mean for us economically in 5 years. So the projected forecast of children not being in school or graduates, what was the percentage? These things are very interesting to me because that determines the state of the economy. That should be able to tell us the impact of not being on the virtual platform or not in school. What is the act? These are all data points that would be great for us, and I think which would place more urgency even on this discussion. And this is just a discussion, Cecil, on kids not being in school. This isn't even about fixing it or revolutionizing education.
That's a different issue, and I'm not talking about that. And I will give the minister time to fix and change all that program. I'm talking about the crisis, the COVID crisis alone, right? The implementing steps. From September to now, December, there should have been at least 1 or 2 steps coming, right? I'm not sure if any was implemented yet or whatever program, what it is, right? Nahaja,
one step we got right now is no exam.
We're in a crisis, Nahaja, right? And when you're in a crisis, you need to be in crisis mode, right? Now, if you're saying what you're seeing right now is in crisis mode, it is what it is. If you think
but that's why I asked. I don't feel as if we are. I hear the minister's statement of crisis, and actually is she the first minister to say that we are in an education crisis? She was the one to say it in the House, that we are in a national crisis. She called it an invisible crisis. She said this, and now we're talking about it out loud. She said this, but hold on. Let me just answer the point. Let me answer your point. I don't feel as if this is the crisis that the government is carrying. The pandemic is Omicron is the crisis, but I don't see this is that sort of crisis that we are discussing, where it's hitting, that urgency is hitting, where we're putting money into resolving this. And to me, that's when we're serious. We should have this on the same level as the health crisis. And so I think that there should be far more monies for it, and I don't feel it.
We ain't doing good with the health crisis either, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I conclude this is as good as it gets. This is best of Australia.
I don't like when you say that.
I don't expect nothing more, because people like celebrate.
They like celebrating. Celebrate.
Yeah. They'll see, we're in an educational crisis, and they want to take pictures with celebrities.
Man, listen.
Yeah. That's more urgent.
I saw that one.
They want to take pictures with celebrities. They want to travel. That's what urgent.
Data. We're trying to find an excuse. Is the data the excuse, or you're saying get data, stop trying to find excuses? Says you have reports and recommendations from Belinda Wilson from the Ministry, Department of Education. Seems like an issue is execution and implementation of solutions. I actually think it is the personalities. I think the minister's trying to be nice about hashing it out. You can't hash out when the roadblocks are there. I think that, listen, it's making no sense. All I'm saying is we're doing the same thing over and over. It ain't making no sense. It's we doing
Once
the same
you
thing over and
realize
over.
it ain't making no sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that just all I'm saying is that ain't making no sense. We keep doing the same things over and over, and are we actually going to get any real tangible results? The good thing is that now the Ministry of Health they're going to find a way that kids can get into school in January, but we know that there's still some schools that won't be open.
Yeah,
and
it is what it is, Nahaja. This is what it gets, Nahaja. It is what it is. It is what it is. Some of them can stay home. They can stay home. And they can eat cornflakes, Nahaja. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, and someone says the director needs to be invited to the show. You're right. I need to get the director on.
Didn't we have him on the show some time ago?
No. We never had the director of education on. Not on this show. I think it may have been on Dwight. Yeah, may have been a Dwight show. Someone says this is painful but truth. Educate this generation for a better tomorrow. Someone says, see, if this is the best that it gets, why are you so vexed? Could it be you are hopeful? It's your hopeful.
No, me? I getting ready to wash my hands off it. That's why you send your child to private school.
You know what? You're not even.
Yep. You send them to private school because you know some of them ain't gonna make it if they go public school. This is what it is.
My thing is, now we're here. We have it. I mean, the children weren't even, couldn't do hybrid, but you know what it is? You got to pay for education. This doesn't make no sense. Doesn't make no sense.
And it's so bad now, you paying for your children to go to private school to get C. Because you don't even want to, even though you ain't no option to get a B or A. You just want to be able for them to read and write. That's why you send them to private school. Say, boy, you don't got to be the smartest there. I can spend tens of thousands of dollars so you'll be able to read. Because I have no confidence in sending you to a government school.
Just winding down. And you know what? There's a lot of people who struggle to send their children to private schools, right? To send their children who can barely afford, you know how many parents who can barely afford to eat, but they are sending their children to private school because they are concerned about their education. And this is, why I need to feel the crisis mode in this. Honestly, I need to feel the crisis mode. And I think that us having this discussion, I hope that it reaches all of them and it elevates, because I need money to be pumped into this crisis. We had a supplemental budget, and I have to look at it again to see if there was a major shift or difference, because we had last budget, money was supposed to go into education, but schools are not open, right? We had an election in September. The premise or whatever, the educational with Ministry of Health was already set that we were not doing virtual, even though private schools were already going into that space. I don't know if this emergency is new. Is this a new emergency? Is this a new emergency, Cecil? This is the last 3 months worth of crisis? Because I didn't feel like it's the crisis. It don't feel like we were caring much, especially those who weren't feeling the pinch. I don't know. I just don't know what to say.
There's a segment of the Bahamas that give them time. Give them 3 years before they solve this crisis now. And I'm not talking the overall.
No segment.
I'm not talking about the overall segment. I'm just talking about the COVID crisis. Give them some more time.
COVID won't leave us. So you can't. COVID won't leave. You have to live with COVID. So the COVID crisis is going to be interesting. It's an endemic. Now what is the plan?
We don't even know what the plan is about how to get into the school, how many kids go in there, how they can sanitize. We just don't know what it is.
And that is where the Department of Education and the Ministry of Education has to get us that information. So now here's what the question will be too. We got to put this question to us, and I got to get Mr. Darville on the show, right? I got to get Michael Darville on the show, because the Minister of Health, they're setting the guidelines for schools.
And for the carnival.
For the carnival is straight. So they're setting the guidelines for the school.
The news reports that carnival is straight. They're going to approve them.
So Jeff didn't make sense when he had the job. Stop that. Why are you all acting as if students in government schools are low achievers? Government schools have produced some of the brightest minds in this country that I've seen.
See, that's an excuse there. We know the issues we have in public school now. But as soon as we speak about the issues in public school, someone will come and say, oh, but they're doing well. When we having 60, 70% of them failing, we would talk about, oh, but at least we have 30. Let's think.
No. Where's the statistic? 60, 70. I think it's 40% failure, right? 40%?
40%?
40%.
So let me say that
And it's
over.
terrible. 40% is terrible.
Let's take away the private school BGCSE results.
And let's see what the real data is.
Let's see the real data. You know? See, they play with us, Nahaja. They play with us, Nahaja.
Well, no, but that text made a point that they are not. Make sure that we make note that government school students are not all low achievers. They don't want that too. I think I'm a government school child anyway. So
I went to public school too, no, Nahaja. Nahaja, as you know, I teach at risk youth, right? And I just teach them skills in terms of tourism and soft skills, right? I have students who come inside who cannot read, right? And I ask them, how much do you think you want to make? Your entry-level job. They all want to make $500 to $600 minimum. No formal skill, minimum starting salary. And they vex that you pay them lower than that for a person who cannot read, write, or have any skill or trade.
Yeah. Now, listen, we're going to have this debate. I had this whole conversation at the beginning of the show. You know, what has changed for us and education and the need for it. And I mean, we need to revolutionize it. I'm just exhausted just talking about it. We got to go back.
You still have a caller, but I see.
No, we ain't got, sorry,
Okay,
caller. We got to go. Thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate you, CA Nuri. You're the best. You're listening.
Come January, things better than Nahaja.
We'll be back. See you guys tomorrow.